that the one thing you can actually control is your response.
You cannot change the seasons, you cannot change the wind, but you can change yourself.
You are making choices for how you show up in this world, and so you better take some dang accountability for them.
That's what changes our life. Our responses change our life.
You're not just going to wake up and win the lottery one day, even without playing. Like, that's not how it works. You're listening to episode 9 of Apology Void.
And we're laughing because we're just dancing like little animals at the start. Before we
like
started.
making up my own songs in my head over here, pumping myself up, doing my dance.
Time. I love it. Now, this week we are talking about ownership. But before we get started, I just want to say if we could all like, follow, subscribe, reviews, any of the things that would help us keep recording the podcast, that would be amazing and much appreciated.
Yeah, if you like our dance moves, let us know. If you like hearing our laughter, let us know. We need all of like the support we can get from you guys. Actually, one of my best ways I can think of for you to support us is to share the podcast with somebody else.
Yeah.
Send it to somebody. Like, send them an episode and be like, ooh, this one might be a good one for you to listen to.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, I do that. Like, send like my favorite ones, you know.
Yeah.
And not just ours, like any podcast. I'm like, oh, you would love this. You would love this.
Not just our podcast, not just ours. Well, I mean, seriously, it's great. Like, if you have a favorite book, you recommend it to a friend. Or, like, you have a meme that you like, you share it with somebody.
100%.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But you know what we're doing here, Sal, is we're taking ownership of this. We're taking ownership of the fact that we love this, we're putting it out there, and we want other people to join us in the party.
I mean, to be fair, even if nobody liked the podcast, I would still do it.
Honestly.
Not for me, because I love it. And you, us. I love it.
Yeah, that's actually true. Like, we don't do this for other people. We do it for us because it's important topics, and it's stuff that, like, is really close to my heart, and it's stuff that really means a lot to me and has been a part of my journey. And, you know, just meeting you has been a cool way to connect on those things and be able to share about them.
I know. Same. But if more people listen, it would be amazing, because I we want to help other people too, so that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's always been a part of like my journey, is whatever I've done, I've wanted to support other people in being their best versions of themselves, of taking ownership of who they are and living unapologetically out loud.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it. Let's kick off.
Kicking it off. Sal, what is ownership to you? What does that mean to you? Like,
I'll kick off by saying I have this book, right, that I read a lot, and I have read a lot of times. I'll call it my little, like, I don't know, success. I don't know what that word is. Like, just a little, I'm not religious, we'll say success Bible, right? It's a book. It's called The Success Principles, and it's by Jack Canfield. So highly, highly recommend if you haven't read it. And chapter 1 in that book is called Take 100% Responsibility for Your Life. So it really encompasses that chapter about taking ownership of everything that you do, everything that you are, everything that's happened to you, all the things there, like ownership for everything in your life. And he doesn't sugarcoat, right? And I love it. So I'd start there, but that's what it means to me. It means that you take personal responsibility for everything that happens. Like, you can't change circumstances. You can't change anything else. You can't change external responses. You can't change seasons. You can't change weather. You can't change anything, but you can change yourself. And there's actually a quote in the start of the book that is something like that. It's Jim Rohn's quote. And he says, you must take personal responsibility. It's actually the same. You cannot change the circumstances. You cannot change the seasons. You cannot change the wind, but you can change yourself. It's something like that. Like, that's the opening of the book. That's what it means to me. I just think it's highly recommend.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's one that I haven't read before.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. It sounds like a really, really good one. And it's so true. Like, you cannot change your circumstances. You can't change where you were born, how you were raised. Like, you can't change like the things around you. You can change the environment. I'm thinking about this right now. I'm like, you can change a lot of those things, but like when you're a kid, you can't change where you're at and who your family is, and so much. You cannot control the weather around you, basically. Um, but you can have accountability for who you are and what you say and what you do. I was thinking about a book that I read, and there was this really influential moment for me. It's called You Are a Badass.
I love that
And
book.
isn't it a great book?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
But I remember reading it for the first time. I was on a plane to Germany, and my sister was sitting next to me, and I was reading a chapter about family and how all of these things can influence you, but at the end of the day, you are not those people. So you have to take accountability for who you are in the moment. You can't say, this is because of this person. No, like, you're making these choices now. As a grown person, as an adult, you are making choices for how you show up in this world. And so you better take some dang accountability for them.
Well,
And I
that's
was just,
blaming, right? What you're
oh,
describing is blaming.
yeah, yeah,
It's blaming and making excuses. Like
exactly.
excuses and all that, they're just bullshit. Like
And,
you are just, they're just stories that you make up about why you haven't done something, why you can't do something, what's happening. This is happening because of this. Like explaining out things that are right or wrong. It's justification. That doesn't equal ownership.
it's the antithesis of ownership, the exact
Correct.
opposite. I mean, if we're looking at synonyms and antonyms for ownership, if we're breaking down the words, we're going into like the English.
We're
The
having an
English.
English lesson here.
Like, the antonym for ownership would be blame.
Yes.
And it's so easy and becomes such a part of our norm to blame other things.
Yeah.
When really, like, if you just stop and look at your circumstances, look at who you are, look at what's going on around you, like, you've made that. You've created that. One of my favorite things that somebody suggested I do was taking because out of my language. Like,
Okay.
I did this because because um the word because is giving a reason for something, or a blaming reason, or an opportunity, or an out. Whereas if you remove because, then you're stating the actual, like, what you are doing and the why behind it. Like, this is who I am, not I'm doing this because somebody else told me to. No, you're doing something because you chose to. I'm doing this and I want to. So it's tricky to take that word out and really look at the why of things and the reasoning behind everything. But when you do, it's really impactful and it makes you go, oh, huh, huh. I am making all these choices myself. Oh
I
dear.
love that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't often say, and it's right, because you wouldn't often say, I'm doing this because of me. That's not something you would naturally, you might sometimes, but you naturally wouldn't say that out loud.
Yeah.
When you use the word because for a reason, it's generally to give a justification.
Right.
I like it. I've never heard that before.
It's an interesting one, and it's a really tricky thing. It's one of those things where I think we were talking about identity and doing things for you, and we've talked a little about self-care and all of that. But one of the things I feel like excuses versus ownership comes into light a lot is when we're talking to other people and they maybe say they invite us somewhere. And we say, oh, I can't because, or I don't want to because, instead of saying, that's really not something I'm interested in,
Yes.
or I'd rather take care of myself. we use these excuses rather than actually talking about the root and who we are and the why. So
It's
yeah,
true.
it was a good challenge that someone gave me. They
Okay.
actually they actually gave me that in arguing with a former partner of mine. Like, how do you have better communication? You take out the because.
But it's relevant. It
It's
doesn't
so
matter
relevant.
in what circumstance you learn that. That still can be applied to many areas of your life or our lives.
Yeah.
It's a bit like you said before, you can't change a lot of things in terms of like your environment. If you're in an environment as a child or something like that, you can't change that you live there or something. Like,
No.
when I'm not saying that like you have control over every single thing. What we do have control of, and I just want to say, maybe we're speaking to adults here. Like, you're not going to regulate things like this as a child. Let's just put that out there. It's like, maybe an older teenager or something. But what you can change is your response. So when you're in, say, a negative environment or in a negative situation, you have control over your response to that. Or if something bad happens to you, I'm not saying you could have changed that. What I'm saying is you can change your response to that situation.
Yeah.
And that's what changes. It sounds dramatic, but I'll say it. That's what changes our life. Our responses change our life, how we about taking ownership. And that dribbles into all areas and creates an impact.
Yeah, there's the thought that the one thing you can actually control is your response.
Mm.
You can control your response and your reaction. I mean, there's so many things that are outside of our control. But when we really get into it, even if you can't change a circumstance, you can change how you react to it, how you respond, how you show up, how you feel. I mean, truly, you can take inventory of all of it and decide how you want to respond and react.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's actually like taking this kind of ownership and giving up excuses and all of those is actually really uncomfortable.
Oh, so uncomfortable.
And I think I say this every week, but we're not here saying it's easy as. I think I say that every time. But when we're working on taking responsibility and accepting and taking responsibilities, it can evoke a lot of emotions as well. Because like you said, it's coming back to who you are as a person and facing sometimes, I haven't done this because of me, is like, oof, okay, I've chosen that. Like, I've made decisions, I've responded to situations, maybe incorrectly, air quotes, for people who are watching on video, which has caused this. And that can be really like, ugh, like you feel that you sort of feeling inside, because it's easy to blame other people or justify. It's easy to say, I didn't do this because this happened to me, or because of this, or oh, I didn't do it. Oh, but I had this da 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 da. We do it naturally, and I still catch myself doing it sometimes. Absolutely, full responsibility for that. Because when we bring it back to ourselves, it's hard, kind of like it's a challenge.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. It actually made me think of, like, if we have people close to us in our lives, or even not, if we're out in public, say somebody does something to upset you. Somebody says something that ticks you off or makes you frustrated or angry. One of the hardest things to do is take a step back from that, not blame your anger on them, but look at why that triggered you. Because you get to choose your reaction and your response. And if we take that into everything that we do, every relationship, we see that so much conflict and so much upset and dissatisfaction and really just like frustration in this world can be taken care of if we just take ownership for the fact that we are feeling triggered or upset and we figure out why that is rather than blame it on somebody else.
100%.
And that's tricky. That is hard. And man, is it ugly when you realize that, like, you saying somebody else made you angry is basically blaming them for your anger.
How stupid does it sound?
I mean, yes, they did something that may not have been fair, but you still are the one who had that response and reaction. And you have to take ownership for everything that comes after that moment. It's just like, it's gut-wrenching sometimes when you actually get deep into it and you think, oh, ownership is actually really hard.
Well, it is. In everything.
People, yeah.
Like in everything, yeah.
People get stuck in circumstance, I think, of like, oh, my job is never going to be good enough. I'm never going to make enough money. Like, these things are never enough. But what they're doing is basically just putting their thought into basically winning the lottery. Like, they want luck to happen to them. People want things to just like unfold. You look at some successful people and think, oh my gosh, they're so lucky, you know, things have just gone right for them. But a lot of those people are people who have failed time and time again, who took risks, who took ownership and put themselves out there in a way that other people were too scared to. They said, okay, here's what I've got. Here's my skills. Here's what I'm going to own. And they just did it. They took ownership of their own life, of their own circumstance, of their own reality, and just went for it. They weren't lucky. Like some people, of course, they start off better than others. Some people have more resources. Yes. But also, it's not just something that happens. Like, you have to do something in order to better yourself, in order to create the lifestyle that you want. And that's just it. That's it. You're not just going to wake up and win the lottery one day, even without playing. Like, that's not how it works.
True. There's no luck. I don't like this luck. When I see people, or hear people say, oh, they're so lucky, like for successful people, oh, they're so lucky. Like saying, they're not lucky. They bloody worked their butt off behind the scenes. Like, are you joking?
Yeah.
Because people don't see, and this actually probably applies to most of the topics that we talk about, because all of them require work behind the scenes or under the surface. That's not visible. That's not visible to the outside world. It's only the outcome or the success or the growth that's visible to the outside world.
Yeah.
So that, oh, they're so lucky. Oh, I could never do that because there we go. That's what they're instantly they're going, oh, because they had this or they did this. No. They've just done the work behind the scenes or under the surface and gone through the uncomfortable shit. They've gone through the challenges. They've worked through it. They've been down in the quicksand like that horse on that movie that everybody cried about.
Stop!
Yes.
Why did you do that?
Because it was what I thought about at the time. What is it? The never-ending story.
Yes.
I'm laughing, but it's not funny. It's actually really sad, that bit. But they didn't die. They just came back out, okay? I'm talking about the people that were, like, rolling out.
God.
Why would that come to my mind?
I don't know, but, like, deep, sad childhood trophy memories.
Choose your response, Kate. Choose your response.
God. I am choosing to have an emotional reaction to that right now. What?
I just evoked the emotions of how people are listening or watching. They're like, oh.
Great movie. Should watch it again.
Great movie.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't laughing at that poor animal, but I was just using it as my analogy because I feel like it's fitting.
appreciate it so much. Oh my gosh. And now I'm
I love
thinking
that you've seen that too. Like, has everybody seen that? Like, surely,
I don't know. I feel like we need to do an internet
quiz.
poll now. Like,
Have
how
you
many
seen
people
The
have
Never-Ending
seen the
Story?
well, people our age have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like
maybe if you're a bit younger.
if you haven't seen the Never Ending Story and you're in your 30s, like you were under a rock. You were literally living under a rock. I don't know.
And Gold used to watch it.
Just go.
It's a bit
go
like
watch
the
it.
movie. You might not get this. I don't know have you seen The Castle? It's very Aussie, so you might not know what I'm talking about.
I have not seen The Castle.
Yeah, no, that doesn't surprise me. If an Aussie told me that, like they haven't seen The Castle, I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's like the pinnacle of just. It's just so Aussie, that movie. You should get it and watch it. I think you would laugh, or you may not get some of the jokes, but it's so funny. Like, if you're Aussie, it's so funny. If people haven't seen it, I'm like, ugh, get it together.
It might help me understand you a little bit better and learn some of like your references and language.
Maybe. It might.
I mean, we just have some weird little quirky differences, and it's really sweet.
Like earlier, I said, oh, my parcel's arrived.
My parcel has arrived.
And you were like, my parcel. And I was like, what? That's a thing, a parcel.
I got my packages.
Packages.
My packages. We use such hard language sometimes. Parcel just sounds so nice.
It sounds... now you're using that accent. I'm not British or English. But I get it. Right, it's like parcel. That probably came from... Anyway, that's not important. And focus. Sorry that I took us off track with that reference. Anyway, so what was I saying? Yeah, they're not lucky. They've just done the hard work, and they don't. Successful people don't. We're talking about blaming before, but successful people don't blame other people for where they're at. Or I'm going to go as far. This might be a bit extreme, but people who are like genuinely happy don't blame other people either.
Yes.
And that might be a hard pill to swallow.
Yes. What I was literally just thinking was the difference between choosing to be grateful versus choosing to complain. And there is a difference between thanking the people who have helped you get where you are versus blaming all of the things that have held you back. And there is the divide that is created between both of those things. It's you have this circumstances or this set of circumstances. Are you going to choose a path of gratitude and being grateful for the things that you have that support you? Or are you going to choose to complain about all of the things that aren't going right? Like, that so relates to what you were just saying. As like, yeah, successful people don't complain about the things holding them back. They find answers. And I feel like that is something my parents taught me, is how to find answers, find solutions. Instead of seeing a problem, see a puzzle that we can solve. And that has really driven me. People have asked how I started businesses and like how I knew what I was doing. And I said, I didn't. I didn't. I just figured it out. You figure out what you have to do and you make it happen. That's that. Did I know how to do a podcast? No. Here we are. Did I know how to do these things? Absolutely not. But you figure it out day by day by day when you have the resolve to actually make a difference and make an impact and move forward. Instead of blaming the things that you don't know, you figure it out.
100%.
Man, I get really animated about this stuff. Like, for those of you watching, I'm like karate chopping the air over here. For those of you who just listen on Spotify or just listen, you should probably check out the YouTube at some point because it gets. I like
I've been uploading the video, but it's hard to watch. Like if you're in the car, you can't watch the video. But...
Man, Just
Yeah. But you're right. And the same thing, I had the same experience when I started my business as well, because brief story that basically the person who introduced me to the business came to me and said, "Oh, you should do this." And I was like, "What's that?" She's like, "I don't know." And I was like, "Okay, what do I have to do?" She's like, "I don't know." And I was like, "Okay, cool." Because I was like, I could just figure it out. Like, I was asking about the how and the process, and this person who wasn't in the business that told me about it. So she had no idea, but I just trusted her. I was like, you know what have I got to lose? Like, I'll just work it out and just do it, make it happen.
exactly.
Like,
And
it
if you
doesn't.
can't, like, if you can't figure it out, then you ask for help.
Yes. Yeah.
But
That's also
again,
would be a pivoting point as well. Like, say if you were doing a business or you were doing anything really, like in a job or anything, and you came across an obstacle or something that was inhibiting growth or progressing forward, rather than go, "Oh, I wasn't able to because um, Jenny in HR, wasn't really nice to me when I went to report something." I don't know, I'm just making it up. But going, okay, all right, so what can I do differently now to move forward, or to change my role, or to get away from this situation? Whatever it is, you can ask someone, or you can, I don't know, figure it out. Like, shit, take some ownership. I don't know.
oh, well, that's it. Yeah. You figure it out. You take ownership of the situation and you do something differently. Like, well, that's probably where some people get stuck as well, is doing something different can be very scary. Trying
Yeah,
something new can be very scary, but if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't make that change, nothing good will come from it. Like you won't see an impact except for
yeah,
negatively. If you don't change your circumstance, like nothing's going to happen.
100%. We just essentially have to give up blaming, give up excuses, give up justifications, because that doesn't equate to ownership,
Correct. That's
basically.
it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. I think you just summed it up perfectly, Sal.
Done. Finished. Just
Well,
at the end.
and the end. With that, y'all, thank you for listening. This has been a beautiful time with you yet again. As Sal said at the beginning, go find us, like, subscribe, leave a review, share with a friend, do all the things, and we can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.